Hello guys, welcome back to Girl of Coders, and this is your host Shristy Joshi Thakur, and today we are going to host Anurag Jha for the podcast. And here's to Anurag Jha, welcome for coming. So let us start.
Okay, so my name is Anurag Jha and I have currently completed my bachelor's in information technology from Jadavpur University. As of my technical experiences, I have been an intern at Google last summer and I would be joining Amazon as a software developer engineer starting next week. So that's in short about me.
Yeah, that's great, Anurag. So I have heard that you have been an intern at Google, Amazon, and worked across prestigious institutions like IIT Bombay and other Oxford collaborations. So, can you walk through your journey from college student to joining such top tier companies?
Yeah, sure. So when I first started out in my first year, I had some basic knowledge of computer, which was basically coming from the Java taught in school level. So what I did in first year was basically explore all the tech stacks available, basically all the languages, the primary languages as in say C++, Java, Python, and tried out tech stacks as well, like the full stack web development and machine learning, and tried to narrow down myself to one or two tech stacks which I would be focused on going on later.
So, my next question to you is what initially drew you towards backend development, machine learning, and competitive programming? So, was there a specific moment that sparked your interest?
Uh, so as I said, like in my first year, I was exploring all the possible tech stacks which were known, like whether it was backend, machine learning, and the other programming languages. So what sparked the interest, especially in backend development and machine learning, was basically the diversity of the tasks and the application and the real world things you should be able to handle. Like if we say in backend, we have handling of all the large data, the API, the authentication, and everything, which we display in the front end. Like we use many website and applications. So it excited me that how the website and application works behind and how do we get all the data in real time and how it gets handled on a very fast and scalable way. Similarly to machine learning, like it is all still a booming industry and domain. It was quite exciting to me that how machines are able to learn themselves from data and perform them on new upcoming data for any possible task. Like processes and domains like image processing and text processing also excited me, as we could see the scale of the data coming in and the user real life applications with the boom of GPT and LLMs. So this was one of the many domains which excited me, and decided to delve deeper into backend learning and machine learning as going into my industry as well as personal projects.
Okay, so what about competitive programming?
And competitive programming was basically once I grabbed hold of one particular programming language. In my case, it was C++. Then I decided to dive deep into competitive programming with the advice of my seniors, which said that it was a rush of excitement as well as learning when you are given some particular problem to solve in a given time frame. So what excited me was the maths involved as well as the mixture of maths, geometry, and programming languages to give you a real life state problem statement, which not only enhances your learning but it also helps you gain idea of what and how data structures are used in actual life. So it gave me an impulse of how to perform under pressure. So it excited me, and initially I struggled in it because it was quite new for me, the platform, the types of question asked and everything. But as I tried and practiced many contests and solved it, it quite excited to me, as it was often used in interviews and online assessments, as well as it gave me the real world insight of how data structures are used and how it could be used going ahead in this industry.
Okay, so for a beginner or an advanced level coder, or like from the second year or from the third year, you see, so what would be your advice to them?
Okay, so for competitive programming, I would say everyone should try competitive programming once at least in their college life, because like it's not that you have to become a very good competitive programmer, like a candidate master or something, but you have to give it a shot, because it not only helps you in interviews where you are like given 45 or 50 minutes to solve two or three problems. It will always boost your knowledge and problem solving on a general level. Like you would get to see a story and then you are given a problem statement. Like if you practice from other coding platform, like we have leetcode, you are directly given the question itself. Like suppose you have an array and sort it, but in code forces or any competitive programming, you are given a story and you have to derive from that what you are to do. So basically it will help your problem solving and intuition building as well. So if you want to build logically and want to perform really well in interviews, I would say give your shot to competitive programming and try it. And what to start basically from competitive programming is once you have mastered any programming language, you can just try. Like suppose if you are going with C++, you have mastered the fundamentals, you can now start giving a shot to the concepts and competitive programming, and you can learn along the way as well from tutorials and YouTube videos.
Okay, so like many of the students get stuck like in intuition building, or like they get stuck in middle of the interview, they get blank, like which data structure should be used or not. So what is your advice to them? Like which data structure especially did you find very helpful during the interview, and according to the pattern of Google and Amazon, which are the most important topics?
Yeah, so basically, whenever you are solving a problem, like whether it's a competitive programming problem or a lead code general DSA question, what you should do is basically you should start categorizing problems according to their patterns. Like suppose these questions belong to hashing, where whenever you have a long if array something that goes to sliding window, whenever we have the count of something or the frequency of something that will fall into the hashing or map data structure. So what I would say is basically whenever you're practicing an FD sheet or coming up on a new question in a context, what I would say is you categorize it into topics on the basis of some keywords which you are getting in the question. So, and in terms of interviews, most of the questions revolved around the vectors and arrays and hashing. Basically, if you say the topics which are dynamic programming and sliding window, these are the most commonly asked questions. And also I would say is basically before solving any particular FDE sheet, what you could do is like you could practice the top 5 most asked topics. If you say is dynamic programming, binary search, sliding window, graph, these 4 are basically the topics which are most frequently asked in any of the FAANG or top companies and DSA. So you could go ahead with that, and also make sure that you are trying to derive the keywords from the question and then categorize into the data structures used. Like as I said, for sliding window, longest array, frequency hashing. If you need distinct values of something, you go with set and iterators. So yeah, basically categorize problem on the basis of keywords, and that will help you identify and at least build an intuition when you are stuck in an interview.
Okay, cool. That was great. So, from your technical expertise and project section, I would like to ask you from machine learning at IIT Bombay to backend development, your profile spans both research and development. So, how do you balance deep technical learning with the practical demands of software engineering?
Basically, the machine learning internship which was at IIT Bombay, it was more of a theoretical project. Like when we try to implement ML models in Python, we just basically import libraries and use the already existing libraries in there. So what exciting was that in IIT Bombay internship, I had to dive deep into the maths and statistics involved inside the model. So at first, it was really tough to balance like what technical problems which we were directly solving in ML, like by directly importing the libraries and all. And what in IIT Bombay and research is different. That is, you have to dive deep into the libraries involved. Like basically use Wikipedia, Google Scholar, and the research paper given by your guiding mentor. So how I balanced that was basically like suppose I was learning a particular concept or suppose say supervised learning. So what I did was I conducted a deep technical learning first, like basically the insights and the statistics and the maths involved inside it. And then once you have a good hold of the intuition and the underlying models in there, importing and then directly using is basically very easy for you. So what I would say is basically if you are interested in research in any topic, whether it be development, backend or machine learning, try to dive deep into the underlying architecture. Like suppose if you are working on MongoDB, a database, so try to know how it works inside, like how the MongoDB internally handles the data, how is scalability taking place, how do we divide the data into a unique primary key or everything. And then once you are familiar with the underlying architecture, then you can go through with how it is actually implemented in a project. So that's how you can have a thorough understanding of anything, and that will also help you when you are working on new frameworks using existing architecture. So if you have a deep learning or a deep understanding of any underlying framework, you can work going ahead with the same architecture and framework.
Yeah, that was very cool. So, let's start with the next question. So, could you share one project that challenged your technical boundaries, and what did you learn from it actually?
Yeah, so one project if I were to go through which challenged me technically was I was working for the first time in a technical or industrial setup for the small startup by the name of document.ai. So in that I had to develop an end-to-end machine learning framework which was basically built upon NLP for categorizing documents. Like suppose if you are uploading documents on the basis of legal, entertainment or sports, so the application would return the tag. Like suppose if you are uploading a 500 page document, it would give you the summary of the entire document as well as the tag, which will be the category or the genre of the document being uploaded. So that was really tough for me because it was the first time I was working with NLP and I had to deploy in production as well as I had to integrate it to the front end as well. So that project sparked how end to end the entire project architecture works. Like basically, what before that I was learning was only machine learning models returning output according to the given data. But this was that machine learning was on the back end. I had to learn NLP for this as well as integrate it with the front end. So this gave me a thorough understanding of how the entire architecture works. And I also had to do MVP in here, the model view planning, which also gave me a real insight of how a software developer works. Like you have to plan everything beforehand and then go on working about the frameworks. So yeah, that challenged me and also excited me to learn more about machine learning and integration with front end.
Okay, so in which year were you doing this internship?
This was towards the end of second year, like in fourth semester.
Wow, that's great. You can't expect a fourth year person to do such things, really. Like myself, I also learned machine learning, but in my second year, I was doing it from a AWS scholarship program. So these things are just like rocket science for a second year student,
Yeah,
really.
it was actually quite
So
tough.
you
But it was a
really
great time.
deserve offers from Google and Amazon, etc. So let's go to the next question. So, as someone contributing to open source like Self Shiksha and Pariksha, so what advice do you have for students wanting to break into real world projects?
Open source is basically like you are given, like suppose you have to first identify your interests in open source because there are a lot of organizations which are contributing in various domains. And suppose if you are interested in core C or C++, or if you want to go for a Python or machine learning one, so there are a lot of open source organizations which are accepting contributions from developers from all over the globe. So first of all, you have to identify yourself because what you are particularly interested in, else you would find yourself in a place where you are interested in all the organizations and you won't be able to contribute to any single one of them. So what I would say is first identify that particular interest you have. Like suppose in my case it was Python and machine learning. So what I did was I was scrapped all over the internet for the organizations contributing for the same, and then I shortlisted 4 to 5 organizations which were basically accepting contributions from developers, and then basically you can form yourself a document or a Google Doc where you could formulate what the organization is working on, what are the tech stacks it is accepting contributions from, and then maybe you can like try to articulate yourself and the solution which you are giving in the form of a flowchart or diagram which you can first initially present to the organization or the repository owner, and then you can maybe go ahead with the code implementation. Like in my case, I had also applied for the Google Summer of Code, like GSOC, but I was not able to get it shortlisted. But what I learned was basically articulation and documentation is the most important stuff in open source before actually you start implementing. Like I've seen many people, they actually implement the plan they have and then they present to the organization, which automatically gets rejected most of the time. So what you could do is basically plan a framework and a flowchart type of thing of what you're planning to do before actually implementing. So identifying your interests and articulating your framework before contribution is one important thing I would say for open source.
Yeah, that's really true. So let's dive into your internships at top tech firms. So you have interned at both Google and Rupeek. So can you compare the work culture expectations and learning experiences from both the companies?
Yeah, sure. So, like, first of all, the internship experience at Google was like one of the best experiences I've had working around in the industry. Like, the learning there, the teammates, the colleagues, and also the level of work being done there and the scale was really massive. Expectations were a bit high as well, but also the work culture was really amazing. Like, whether starting from the onboarding, you were given proper time to learn, you were given proper documents and resources, that it was not that you had to figure out everything on your own. You were guided everything by your mentor, like that this is the thing you have to do, these are the tech stacks you have to learn, and these are the internal tech tools. Like Google uses many internal tech tools, like outside the Google we use generally VS Code as a code editor and everything. So they have their own code editor, they have their own GitHub type of thing where deployment takes place and everything. So that was quite new, but the process was seamless and the onboarding was really good. The mentor, host, and everything was helpful, and the project was really like had a good visibility as well as it was a lot of learning involved, like tech stacks integrated with Python. I was working on Python there. So before going to Python, you were going to Google, I knew everything in Python, but once I went there, I got to know that there are many things which I have not explored yet, and working on industry level at a company like Google was really a beautiful experience. And talking about Rupeek, the experience was nice there as well, but the work culture I would not say was bad, but it was really fast. Like you have to build things fast, you have to ship and deploy things faster, because Rupeek is a fintech startup which is growing at a massive scale. So what expectations were a much higher level as compared to Google, as well as the work there was, I would say, if you judge on the basis of learning, Rupik had more learning than that from Google, but the experience there was like you had to hustle a lot, like you have to work. There were no such fixed working hours. Like you have to, sometimes you will find yourself deploying at 12 a.m. in the night as well, and sometimes the work could go on even till the entire nights where teams spent on deployment and open calls. So what is basically, if you want learning at an early stage, like you want to know how full stack development or any particular framework works, and you're not concerned about the work life balance, so I would say startup is a very good place where you could grow yourself by learning industry and deployments, where you will get end-to-end ownership is there. Like if you want to own the complete framework, and when you go outside in the industry and say that I have built this thing, in startup that is more valid. But in Google it was there, like learning was great, but everyone worked as a team, and there was no such particular pressure on one particular teammate or anything. So the work balance and the work life balance is extremely good in Google, but the learning, personally I found it much better in Rupik, because of the project of which we're working. It was being built from scratch. Like they were developing a database for gold loan and finances. So I got to know how databases are built, how scripts are written from scratch, and also I had complete ownership. Like there was no a particular person or mentor who would guide you, like these are the tech stack and you have to work, you have to figure out everything on yourself. So startup is a place where you can grow and like learn in the initial stages, and like I would say Google is a place where you can learn as well as like maintain the work life balance and everything going into the later stages of your career.
Okay, that was very cool. So, what strategies helped you land roles at prestigious companies like Google, Amazon, HSBC, and Zomato? So, could you share preparation tips for students targeting similar roles?
Yeah, sure. So, like basically, if you're talking about MNCs, like the FAANG one, basically the Google and the Amazon, so they were mostly focused on data structures and algorithm (DSA). So what I would say is you need to be properly good, and you have to master and practice a lot of questions in DSA. Basically, all the patterns, be dynamic programming, binary search, graphs, trees, and everything. Because like in basically in Google and Amazon, there would be 2 to 3 rounds, which should be all virtual, and you will be given 45 minutes to solve 2 to 3 DSA questions, and you have to optimize your approach. Basically, like you can't just give the brute force and walk away expecting a shortlisted mail. So what I did was basically I practiced a lot from the contests and like LeetCode contest and the code forces one, and tried to solve as much as possible. Like suppose if I was able to solve only 3 questions or 4 questions out of 6 or 7 from a contest, so what I did was basically after the contest I used to see the editorials and try to solve it on my own using a timer. Talking about startups like basically Zomato, you had to be thorough with the CS fundamental concepts, whether it was object oriented operating systems or DBMS. For that I went through the Gates Matcher YouTube channel, and also GFG and Interview Bit for the interview questions, which really helped me. And what I would say is for banking firms, basically like HSBC and BNY Mellon, what I would say is that you could thorough yourself through the logic and syntax of SQL programming languages, because they really ask that a lot. And also, if you want to build projects and have a good personal project, what I would say is you have thorough knowledge of all the tech stacks involved in it. Basically, whether if you're working on a mod-stack project, so you need to have 15 to 20 questions prepared on each Express, React, Node, and MongoDB individually, so that when they are asked in the interviews, they really know that you have built this project from the scratch and you own it. And also make sure that all the projects are deployed, because in startup like Zomato, they might just randomly click on your resume and check whether the project is actually running or not. So in short, if I want to say, Google, Amazon, and all the MNCs, they focus 90% on DSA and 10% on CS fundamentals, whereas in Zomato, like HSBC, banking, and the top tech startups, it is 50-50 on the DSA, 40% on the CS fundamental side, and you can expect a round of low-level design or system design as well.
Okay, so the most important question, uh, what were your biggest learning from your SWE internship or software development internship at Google? So any project or mentorship that really shaped your approach to engineering?
Yeah, so my time at internship, I was a summer intern in Google in the summer of 2024. So what struck me most was it was not about really the what level of knowledge you have as an individual, but how you can contribute as a team. Like basically, I was completely new to an industry setup, and I knew everything in Python before I went going there. But once I was there, I knew there was a lot of tech stacks and a lot of internal tools which were based around Python. So what I could say is my most important learning and key takeaway from the internship was that teamwork and collaboration is one of the most important aspect of software development, which is often ignored. Another important aspect is that I started a lot more documentation of the work which I was doing. Like basically, if you're working on a particular project, it can be anything. Basically, if you're working on a Python framework or a Monstack project, try to document it, your learning, your tech stacks involved, and everything, because whenever you are in an industrial setup, you might leave a team or you might leave or change your org. But what basically will leave around here is the documentation you are doing of the project which you have. So teamwork, collaboration, and of course the scale of work involved. Like whenever you are thinking of any problem, you don't think it for one or two users. Like basically whenever we solve a lead code problem or a DSA problem, we just try to get it accepted or submitted. But what I learned from my time at Google was basically you need to think about the aspects which the future aspects as well, like how it would be able to handle 1 billion users, how it would be able to handle people going in different regions and their requirements. So basically software development is more about teamwork, collaboration, and thinking on a large scale of users, future aspects, and everything, rather than individual particular knowledge of the tech stack. So yeah, that was in brief the key takeaway from my internship at Google.
Yeah, that was very great. So let's dive into your competitive programming and leadership. So you are a knight at leetcode and an expert at code forces. So clearly passionate about CP, we can see. So how has competitive programming influenced your coding style and problem solving mindset in real world development?
So basically, competitive programming gave me the idea of like the capability of thinking in a time-bound environment, basically, which is very important for an interview. And also, competitive programming gave me the process of intuition building. Like whenever you see a new problem, or a new pattern, or a new story-based question, it gave me and it helped me build the intuition. Not possibly the implementation, but it will give me an idea of how to implement the question as well. And computer programming for takes time. Like it took me around 2 to 3 years to get to the expert level. Many people have different learning rates. Like some people get to candidate masters in a year, and many take more than 4 or 5 years as well. So you need to acquire patience, but it will be surely a good journey, because computer programming will help you get edge in interviews as well as resume shortlisting if you are applying for off-campus jobs. And in LeetCode, what strikes you basically is like it would help you give you an interview or an online assessment type of environment where you have to solve 4 questions in around 90 minutes. So yeah, LeetCode is basically if you want to ace your interviews and online assessment, and code forces or competitive programming is basically if you want to ace your interviews and online assessment while building intuition as well as logical solving, which is very important once you step into the industry, because you don't have to only solve DSA problems once you get into the industry. You have to think on a larger scale, where problem solving skill is the important thing, and that is what competitive programming helps with.
Yeah, that was really superb. So let's go to the next question. So as the GDSC lead at Jadavpur University, how do you approach community building and leadership alongside technical growth?
Yeah, so I was elected as a GDSC lead last in the 2023 to 2024 academic year. So it was the very first GDSC which was established at Jadavpur University. So I had to like select all the tech leads, the social outreach leads, and everything. So what I had to do was basically collaborate with juniors as well as some of my seniors and alumni to spread the word. Like GDSC has now been established in Jadavpur University. So what I was able to learn from that was basically I got to collaborate with juniors, seniors, and my peers alike to establish a society which would not only spread technical awareness but also enlighten the people that how tech is not only useful only in the software domain, but it can be spread to all other domains and industry. Then we also organized various hackathons as well, which could not have been done without the help of our fellow GDSC leads from various colleges which were already established. So it also gave a positive technical environment to our college, which was seemingly not so proactive for the last 2 to 3 years. And juniors as well as like some seniors supported me a lot in this, and the environment which was built like after 2 to 3 months of GDSC been established and the events been conducted, there was really cool, and like there was a lot of support which I got from the faculty as well as my peers, which helped us organize very much events and as well as tech talks.
Yeah, that was really very cool. So let's discuss some of your personal insights and future vision. So, what does success means to you today, and has the definition really changed from when you started your career? And if you weren't a software engineer, what alternate career path might you have chosen?
Yeah, so initially when I started out in college, my primary goal was to learn as much technical tech stacks and have as much technical knowledge as possible. And by coming towards the end of my final year and graduation, I can say that I have done a bit of learning, whether it be related to tech stacks and having industrial experiences, whether it be internship at Google and securing full-time offers from various companies. So yeah, the definition of success for me remains still the same. That is to learn, to be curious and keep growing. Yes, sure, placement in good companies feels a really big point in my life where I would continue to be learning, being curious and staying motivated, going ahead as well. So I would want going ahead to work on projects which basically have large scale visibility as well as user perspective, where my project is basically visible and it affects a lot of the users in the real time scale. So yeah, the definition of success for me still remain the same, which is being learning and remain curious and motivated for little things going ahead. And an alternative professional career which I would consider if I would not be a software developer would be either being a footballer or a musician.
Oh, that was really cool. Okay, so what's next for Anurag Jha? So, are there specific goals or dream projects you are working towards?
So what's next for me is basically having secured placement offers, and I'm joining Amazon. I would like to work on projects which impact billions and millions of users out there, and I would like to work on projects which is has a very good visibility. That is, I want to work on projects where my work gets reflected to real-time users and customers. So basically, I would like to keep working on the tech industry for a while before like maybe pursuing somewhat roles related to management when I go into the later stages of my career. But what I would do as of now is basically try to learn as much tech stacks as possible, try to learn from resources and try to learn from my colleagues and seniors once I join Amazon as much as possible, and yeah, maybe have a more better version of myself while working in the tech industry and working on scalable and user set project which impacts billions of users.
Okay, that was really cool. Last one is the rapid fire round. So, let's begin with that. Okay, so your favorite programming language?
C++.
One book or course that changed your approach to coding?
CS50 by Howard.
Tech trend you are most excited about?
Gen AI and LLMs.
Preferred debugging snack during late night coding sessions?
Not a snack, but black coffee.
Oh, that was really cool. So, lastly, what advice would you give to freshers and young developers looking into balanced research, software development, and personal branding like you have done?
So what I would say is basically for freshers who are starting college or maybe people who are in their second or third year is try to keep learning and be curious and stay motivated, because placement is not only about learning and hard work but also for securing interviews you need a bit of luck with the resume shortlisting and calling up to the next stages as well. So what I would say is continue the process and like keep learning, keep practicing on a regular basis. Like don't do like you are like solving 100 questions in one day and then you leave out the thing for 10 days. It's better to solve a problem or two every day so that you continue the learning curve. Also try to work on as many personal projects as possible, whether it be copied or on individual self, but try to always give them flavor of your own, like suppose adding one or two features of your own of what you learned. Also, what I've learned from my time at internship at Google and Rupeek is basically try to document all the work you have been doing, because when you reflect on yourself, basically going a year or two later, that would help you reflect your mistakes and reflect the way and path you have come ahead. And yeah, best wishes going ahead, and it would be a great fun when you achieve all the success and roadmap you have planned for. So stay structured, stay motivated, and best wishes from my side.
Yeah, thank you so much. So, thank you so much, Anurag, for sharing your such great insights about technologies and your experiences. And thank you so much for coming to our podcast and like making it such a great video and such a great descriptive podcast today. And yeah, so that was all about it. So thank you so much.
Thank you.